Hey, and welcome back to the Saddle Cartel Success Series on our YouTube live stream. Tonight's guest is Mr. Troy Mosby from the great state of Missouri. You may have seen Troy posted a picture of a big hammer of a buck earlier this week that he was able to harvest out in Missouri. So we wanted to get him on and celebrate his success this season. It's funny, Troy. This is my fourth Success Series episode this fall, and all of my guests have been Missouri boys. So you guys are hot out
Hey,
there this year.
we're hot this year, I guess, huh?
Yeah, but welcome to the show, Troy, and thanks for taking some time to jump on with us.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So, like I say, it was a beautiful buck you was able to harvest. I know you put in your post that you've been lucky and already taken two does as well. So it sounds like you've had a great season so far. If you would, Troy, just back up a little bit and kind of give us a background on who Troy Mosby is.
All right, man. Uh, my name's Troy Mosby, from Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. I grew up here. Started hunting when I was a young kid, hunting squirrel and rabbit and deer with a rifle, and I did that all the way through high school, and then I joined the military. Didn't hunt for a few years when I was in the military for 6 years, and when I come home from that, I got back into rifle hunting. And after that first year, I was hunting with my stepdad, and I was like, why aren't we bow hunting, man? We could be bow hunting for months instead of just this few days in November.
No kidding.
And so he was like, yeah, why don't we bow hunt? And so next thing you know, I bought my first bow. It was a PSE Buckmaster series, and I still love that bow. I was like, man, I wish I'd have
Still
never
got
got.
that bow?
No, I sold it.
Okay.
It's the one bow that I'm always like, man, I wish I could have that bow back just
Yeah.
to have it. But so I got into it, and my first year bow hunting, I got really lucky. I shot a little 6 point, and when I was trailing that buck, following the blood, I had a little doe come out, and I was like, "Oh man!" So I dropped behind a tree, and I kind of drew back and stuck out beside the tree. And about that time, she stepped out, and I shot her, and down she went. And I was like, "I got a buck and a doe my very first time." And so I was hooked, man. I've been hooked ever since. I quit rifle hunting basically just because I like that up close personal feel. I like that rush of how close they can get to you, and
Oh yeah.
it's kind of cool. So got
Yeah.
into it then, and been bow hunting ever since.
Man, I love it. And it's probably the same story for so many of us that, we started chasing those small games, those rabbits, those squirrels with our dads or granddads or stepdads or uncles or whatever. And then it just led into this love for a whitetail. And, there's nothing wrong with following the seasons. And if folks want to gun hunt, by all means, if it's legal
Right.
out for it. But there's just something about taking a whitetail deer with a bow and arrow that you
Yeah.
just can't really duplicate in any
Yeah.
season, in my mind.
And if you don't do it, you just don't know that feeling and that rush.
It's funny. And my wife, she's not a hunter. She, of course, been married to me forever and knows that I love it, but she can't really wrap her head around why I'm so passionate about it. And I'm like, until you experience it, I can't articulate enough
Yeah.
by words what it really does to a person.
Right. You're right.
It's
You
just,
can't.
no, man, it's something else. Cool.
Definitely.
So, excuse me. Well, take us through a little bit about this big hammer of a buck that you was able to post on the Saddle Cartel page here earlier this week.
Well, man, I got a few farms that I hunt. It's public land, and this year I've actually been hunting public, or I've been hunting private and public. I'm really getting in. I like the mobile hunting. I have several presets, and I use platforms and sticks on all my presets. I strictly saddle hunt, um, and but I've been really getting into the mobile, like just going in, finding sign, whatnot, setting up, hunting, for the day or whatever, and tearing back down. I just love it.
Hmm.
And I feel like I've got some really good equipment for it, so that it actually makes it fun. You know what I mean? When you feel
Okay.
like you have good equipment. And so one of the farms that I hunt, there's some nice bucks on that farm, and I've been very blessed the last few years to be able to shoot. I bet every year I'm laying down 2 bucks,
All right.
and but this year it's been a struggle. I haven't even seen. I hadn't even seen a good buck. Seen a bunch of young ones. That's why I ended up taking a couple does to get some meat in the freezer. And like I said, I hadn't seen much. So there was another farm I hadn't hunted in a couple years, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go out and hunt that farm and just see what happens. The reason I quit hunting it because they'd started building up around it, and I think it was scaring everything off, and there was a lot of construction, and some of that's died down now. So I just thought, well, I'll just go out and give it a shot. And so that morning, it was this past Tuesday. I got up about 4 o'clock in the morning. I always shower, and I don't know if it works or not, but I always use the scent free soap, and I wash my clothes in scent free stuff, and keep them in a tote so that way, hopefully, no as little scent as possible gets on them.
Sure.
So I got up in the morning, I grabbed my stuff, and I headed to the farm, and I get out there, and I walk. It's I don't know, probably 300 or 400 yard walk to the wood line, and then you got to go in, and it's probably another 100 yards, 200 yards into the woods where I have this one specific spot I like to hunt, and it's a great tree. It's a great saddle tree. It's got great shooting lanes, and it's just kind of right in the middle of where everything happens in this spot. And so I headed into the woods. I'm walking around and I'm using my apps. I ain't gonna say which ones they are because I feel like they failed me, and they're usually pretty good. But I got two of them, and they both were failing me this
Uh,
morning. So I kept trying to find my tree, and I couldn't find my tree. And I actually climbed one, and I'm like, this ain't gonna work. I don't have no shooting lanes. I can see with my light. I use a green light, but I can see the limbs and twigs, and I was like, this ain't gonna work. So I climbed back down and I walked around. I'm like, maybe this is it. And I climbed it. Nope, that ain't it, you know. And so I'm walking around, and now I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, I ain't doing nothing but scaring anything off. I don't stand a chance, you know. And I even debated actually just saying screw it, going back to the truck, going home, and not hunting that morning. But I decided I'd go ahead and sit down and at the base of this tree, and I said I'm just going to sit here until it gets to be kind of that gray light, that morning light. And when it does, maybe I can find my dang tree. I feel like a fool, you know.
yeah.
And so about that time it starts getting light, I'm looking, and I was about 30 yards from my tree. I could see it, so I'm like, well, here we go. So I climbed the tree, still frustrated, you know. I'm just like, I'm not gonna see nothing. This is a waste of time, but I'm here, so I ain't gonna shoot one definitely from the house. So I might as well be here. About 10 minutes after I get up in the tree, I had a 6 point come in. And I was really surprised that he came in, and man, he came right up to my tree. He smelt my tree, he licked my tree. I'm taking pictures of him. He's right underneath me, and he wandered off. Well, then I had a couple does come in, and I debated shooting one of those because I was like, it's more meat in the freezer, you know. My little side note: my wife does daycare, and so we feed those kids. She feeds those kids deer meat because I'm
Oh,
like,
heck yeah.
what's the best meat they can have? It don't have steroids in it, don't have nothing in it. You know what I mean? So
Your protein, baby.
that's it. So I stock that freezer every year as full as I can get it. I got two freezers, and that's what these kids eat all year long. They love it, man. They'll come in. My wife, she's my jerky maker. She'll make some jerky, and those kids will come in the morning, little 3 year old, 4 year olds, and they're like, "Hey, Miss Lester, you got any of that deer jerky?" You know, it's just so funny, you know. And when I kill
Uh,
something, I bring it home, and they got to have their picture taken with it. And I'm always like, I don't know how your parents really feel about this, you know, but they're all good. They seem good with it. So and the
heck yeah.
kids love it. I've actually taken a couple of them with me turkey hunting one time, and taken one. I guess we just both of them did turkey hunting. But anyway, so I thought about shooting one of these does because I was like, man, that's just more meat in the freezer, and I don't think I'm gonna see nothing else. Well, then I had a doe come in, and there was another little buck, 8 pointer. He was a little basket rack, and he was chasing her pretty good. And I was watching them, and I heard something. I happened to look over to my right, and I seen the buck, the one I actually shot. And I thought, ooh, that's a good buck. Well, he was coming straight to me. I mean, I couldn't even grab my bow or nothing because I'm afraid he's looking right at me. And he stops about 15 yards from me, and he's just staring right in my direction. And I don't know, I might be weird, but if a deer's looking at me, I always close my eyes and I'll just squint. I always tell my wife, I said, if they can't see your eyes, they don't know what you are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I squinted my eyes and he's looking and you tell he was something was making him a little nervous. So I'm like, I can't even grab my bow. I can't do nothing. Well, he turns around and he starts to go back the direction he came from. So when he turned around, I grabbed my bow and I tell people, I said, I was like Spider Man. I put my heel on the side of that platform and I just turned myself around and I was ready to draw as soon as I turned around. You know, that's one thing I love about saddle hunting. It's just that to me that was fun. You know, I was like, that's just you can't do that in a hang on. You know, and so I flipped around like this, and he stopped, and he had to. He was either going to keep going straight or he was going to go right. And if he went right, I had about a window probably yay big. I don't know if you can see that on there, but yay big. I had one spot I could shoot. And I'm like, ooh, if he goes right, I'm shooting right to that spot, you know. And so I drew back, and sure enough, he turned right. And I was like, oh crap. And he stepped into that hole in those trees. And I shot just a hair too soon. I got him in the shoulder, you know, and I was like, oh no. But you heard it, man. I could barely see some of my arrows sticking out. I didn't get a pass through, but it was in there, you know. And I was like, oh crap, I got him in the shoulder. So now I'm kind of freaking out because I'm like,
Yeah.
he's a good buck. I just shoulder shot him. What's gonna happen, you know? And so he took off, and I watched him, and it's a mountain. I'm basically on the edge of this mountain. He went straight down to the bottom, and I lost him. But I didn't hear no more like him running, or I didn't hear nothing. So I didn't know if he went down. I didn't know if he was just got down there and got quiet. What happened? So I waited since I knew I hit him in the shoulder. I waited about 2.5 hours probably, and I thought, well, if I see a doe come in, I'll shoot her, you know, while I'm waiting.
Hmm.
And so, and then about 45 minutes later, here come a doe, and there was another buck on her butt, and I'm like, oh no, what if he's bigger than that one? And I don't even know if that one's dead. I don't know what am I gonna do, you know. Which he come in and he wasn't quite that big, but I watched them, you know, and they finally walked off. So I shot him about 7:45 is when I shot him, and it was probably 9:45. I was like, all right, I got to know what happened, you know. So
Yeah.
I get down and I go over where I shot him. There's no blood. And I'm like, dang, man, this is going to not be good. And I know sometimes if you do hit them in the shoulder, you're not going to get a good blood trail or whatever. But I shoot Grim Reaper whitetail specials or Grim Reaper carnivores. And I had a carnivore on that morning. So I was like, I know that sucker did some damage, you know. And so I start going down this path where I thought he had went. No blood, no blood, no blood. And I'm like, man, this is not good, you know. And so I get down to the bottom of this mountain. There's a creek that runs down there and whatnot. And I'm kind of like, what am I going to do? I can't believe I ain't got no blood. And I just happened to look over and I seen him laying there.
Ah.
I was like, "Ugh, there he is. Oh my goodness." So I go over to him. He's bigger than I actually thought he was. I was like, oh my goodness, he's a
No
real
ground shrinkage, huh?
yeah, I was like, you know, and that's how it usually is. You're like, well, I thought he was a little bit bigger than that, but no,
Yeah.
he was bigger than I thought he was. And so I go up to him, and he's down, and I mean, there's just blood everywhere. And I'm like, how did he not leave a blood trail? And so I started following the blood trail back up the hill. Well, I went a path too soon.
Ah.
He was a little bit over, and he had a massive blood trail, you know. And I'm like, how did I even miss it, you know? But I was fortunate. I found him. He didn't go far,
That's
and
all it counts.
but he went down the bottom of that mountain, and I was like, how am I going to get him up out of this sucker? So I got called a couple of my sons. I said, hey, you guys busy, you know? And they're like, won't be in an hour, you know. And I'm like, come help me drag this sucker out of here. And so they did. They come and help, and we got him up out of there pretty easy. And of course, like I said, I was very happy. It was a really good buck, and
Oh
Lord
yeah,
blessed
man.
me that day for sure. So, and
Wow.
it was just a total shocker. I had no idea what would be out there, and it was really cool, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you and I talked offline earlier. Since the trail camera craze has kind of taken over, you know, us older guys that has been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years. We remember those days when you just hunted for deer sign and you was actually surprised about what you seen, and
Yeah,
you not discuss that's kind of fun.
yeah,
That anticipation of not knowing when you hear that leaf crunch or that twig break what's coming. It almost adds another level of excitement
yeah,
versus having that inventory. So, I mean, and running trail cameras are fun and it's nice
yeah,
knowing what's around, but there's also another element to just being totally surprised about what's in an area you're hunting. I don't know. I'm like you, and when we talked about it, I think I'm going to start leaning that way again. Is not running cameras anymore, and just let the woods surprise me and just get back to woodsmanship and just hunting deer. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah. I love that. I actually quit using cameras 2 years ago. I think it was. I'd actually been reading some stuff about how these big mature bucks, if they see that camera, they'll be gone. They won't come back. I don't know if there's truth to it. I don't know if it bothers them. I mean, I really don't know. So, but like you was just saying, I like that excitement that I don't
mean?
know what's out here. I don't know what's going to happen today. I don't know what time it's going to happen, but I know I'll be surprised, and that's half the fun. Just like you said, that
Mhm.
excitement. And
Yeah, and I've heard some folks talk on podcasts and other things about, especially the cell cameras putting out a certain frequency that deer can kind of pick up on. And it is kind of funny when you look at some of those pictures on your trail cams, especially the cell cams, that those deer are always staring at that camera, no matter
yeah,
what angle, whether you put it high, low, if you tuck it in a bunch of brush, they always seem to find that thing, even if you got the blackout, at night and stuff. So it
yeah,
kind of lends to the fact that maybe they are picking up on something. Those
yeah.
cameras
They could
are.
be. And like I told you earlier, I found over the years, man, I would get fixated on a buck, and I wasn't shooting another deer till I shot that buck, and
Mhm.
I let a lot of bucks go waiting on one buck. And like I told you, this one particular deer, I mean, I hunted him for 3 years, and the neighbor ended up shooting him, and I'm like, man, not that
Oh,
I
no doubt.
wasted time because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I had a million pictures of him, and I found a couple of his sheds, and I mean, it was a lot of fun. But I was kind of like, I don't want to get fixated on a single deer like that again. So that led to it a little bit too. It's just like, let's get away from it and kind of go back to old school. Like I said, my buddies will give me crap because I got tons of cameras in my garage and they're just sitting there. I got the cell cams and that, not cell cams or whatever, but I just don't. I keep them. Maybe one day I'll use them again. But
Yeah. You never know.
yeah,
And that's the good thing about it is, there's nothing says that you can or can't do it.
yeah,
Everybody has their own little niches. Everybody has their own process or what have you, and it's what makes it enjoyable for you.
yeah,
Um, Not everybody's going to agree with that or disagree with that, but you know, something as a community we should do is support each other as long as we're doing it legally. The one of the things I hate to see in other groups and pages and stuff is all the bashing that takes place. I think as a small community of people who enjoy the same thing and have a love for the same thing, we should be supporting each other. And that's one thing here at the cartels is we try to emphasize is, whether it's a spike, a booner, a doe, whatever, we want to celebrate that success with
yeah,
people because, I just the other day a gentleman posted in the cartel page a small buck that he had taken and I don't think he was, I think he was feeling a little bad about it because it was so small. But, I remember commenting on there. I was like, dude, killing a deer with a bow is hard in itself, any deer.
yeah,
That's an accomplishment. So
yeah. It
enjoy
really
that,
is. Yeah,
celebrate that because I know for me, I started bow hunting at 15 and I was 20 years old before I ever killed a deer with a bow. Now I screwed up on a lot of deer. I missed a lot and got busted a lot, and
yeah.
it was a big learning curve, a big
I,
process to figure out how to do it correctly. So it's not an easy thing to do to begin with.
nope.
So we should
It's
celebrate that and just enjoy that success. However you achieve it.
it sure doesn't take much to mess up a shot. You know what I
No.
mean? Just one little twinge or something. I mean, I went through times where I was struggling, man. I changed everything up. I changed my sight up because my getting older, my eyes started messing with me. So I ended up going to the Easy V. People say it's a gimmick. I've been shooting it for 8 years, and I absolutely love it because I had to retrain myself. I caught myself when I would shoot. It was like I was looking around my bow to see where I hit before I
Hmm.
even shot. And so I was making some bad shots, and I don't want to wound deer and not be able to find them. And I want to feel confident when I go out. And so I changed everything up. I switched to a thumb release because they say it's more accurate. What I read. And I changed to that easy V because I trained myself just to look through the V. I use it like a pin sight. It's got the dots, and I know my ranges when I'm out there. If I'm bored, I just range everything. So I do use it as kind of like a pin sight, but I'm able just to watch my arrow through that V without having to move.
Hmm.
And so I totally just retrained myself, and then I started getting better, and I started putting a lot more work into it. I'll tell you, man, I was so trying to become a better shot, a better hunter. I would come home and I would go out in my backyard, and I have a terraced yard in my back. It's like three little hills. Well, my target's down at I got a 3D target down at the bottom. I shoot from the top, so I'm kind of above it. Well, I would shoot, and I'd put my bow down, I'd run down, and I'd grab my arrow, and I'd run back up to the top of the hill, and I'd knock an arrow, and I'd shoot again, and I'd run down, and I'd do it till I was just, because sometimes when them deer come in, your heart starts beating. You start going, well, that was the closest thing I could find that would kind of replicate that. And I'd
Yeah.
actually read about it in one of the groups that somebody, that's what he did. And so I got to where I would do that, and I would shoot before I went to work. I'd shoot when I got home, and then I'd be out in the woods and I'd see a deer coming, and I'd just say, "It's just a target. Breathe. It's fine." And then slowly I'd become better and better and better. Now, I feel like I'm not saying I won't make a mistake, because I still make mistakes sometimes, but I feel very confident, with what I'm doing, and that,
100%.
that makes it much more enjoyable when you feel like you have enough confidence in your gear and yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's something I think we all should strive is to have that confidence in our setups, whether that's our bows or saddle equipment or if we're using lock-ons. But if you have that sense of confidence, that's just elevating yourself to a place where when you're faced with that target coming in, that deer or that hog or that bear or whatever, you've already kind of overcame that part of it. You know that you're ready. So you just got to execute.
Yeah.
But
But back what you were saying there, man, I'll post pictures of my does I shoot.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I just, everyone's a blessing. Everyone's an accomplishment. Because, like you said, not everybody can just pick up a bow, go out in the woods, and shoot deer. You know what I mean? It takes a lot. You got to have time in the saddle. You got to have in the saddle, right?
yeah,
But you got to have time out there in the sticks. You know what I mean? And it takes practice, a lot of practice, and a lot of training yourself. And so
100,
I celebrate everybody's deer. I got a buddy. He'll shoot. Sometimes he's like, if it's brown, it's down. And so I'll be talking to him over the years. I'm like, man, if you let some of these pass, you might get a shot at a decent buck. And so every year he's like, all right, this year I'm going to let some pass. And he will. And then about mid-season, he starts going, okay, I gotta get some meat in the freezer. And I'm
yeah,
like, man, I don't blame you. Let's shoot some stuff. Who
yeah.
cares? And so as long as we got meat in the freezer, everything's good.
And that's just something else you and I discussed is, I mean, it is some of the best freaking meat that you can eat. It's lean, it's natural, delicious. I love deer meat. I mean, we
Yeah,
eat it here in my house a ton. I mean,
yeah,
we enjoy it. And especially the stuff you get in stores these days, you just can't trust the stuff that's mass produced. But I mean, we won't even open that Pandora box. But
yeah,
yeah, we could talk all night about that.
yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. So I know that when you and I talked offline, that you said you've actually been saddle hunting about 8 years. So I would consider you a saddle veteran. What got you into saddle hunting to begin with?
Yeah, I'd say it's been about 8 years. And I was hunting hang ons and ladder stands. And I had, I had a Millennium Monster, M150 Monster, I think it is. Big, I mean, comfortable hang on. And I love that stand, you know. And I told you one of these farms I was hunting that they started building around it. And I was out there mowing one day, and man, everything just looked different through the woods. I'm like, man, it looks clear through there. So I got off the tractor and walked through the woods over there. And man, they had the tree that my hang on stand was in was gone.
Oh,
Hang
wow.
on stand's gone, you know. And I'm like, they took my stand because there was a couple old stands that had been there for years in that area. Well, they
Uh-huh.
were laying on the ground, so I know that they took those, you know, they took those trees down, and those stands were there. Well, my stand wasn't laying on the ground.
Sure.
And I'm like, somebody helped themselves to it, I believe, but you know, who knows? So I was like, all right, I got to get into this mobile hunting. I got to do something. So I bought the lightest Millennium stand there was at that time. I think it was a one M110 or something. It was lightest one I could find. I got climbing sticks. They were hawk sticks. You know, they're not light by no means, but at that time I didn't know much about stuff, so I didn't know if there were other sticks, weren't other sticks. I just happened upon them, and so I got those. So I've been hunting with them. I'd go in and I'd set up in the morning and I'd tear down in the evening. I do a lot of all day sits. I like to do dark to dark a lot. And so I'd shot a big doe one night, and I called my buddy. He went down in this ravine. I said, "You want to help me drag this thing out?" And he's like, "Yeah, we do that a lot. We help each other out." He'll call me and whatnot. But so he come out to help me, and I was meeting him back at my truck, and I come walking up with this stand on in my pack, and I'm just kind of like, "Help me get this off my back." And he grabs a hold of it, and he's like, "Dang, man, that's your mobile setup." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Isn't that heavy, man?" I said, "I feel like I got the lightest crap I could get, you know, and I'm still just heavy. By the time I set it up and all this, it'll wear me out almost, you know." So a couple days later, man, we're talking, and he's like, "You ever heard of this saddle hunting?" And I'll be honest, people joke about it all the time, but I was like, "From you talking about from a horse? What are you talking about?" He's like, "No." He said, "It's kind of like this hammock thing that hangs from a tree." And I was like, "I don't know about that crap, dude. I got to feel safe, you know." And so, anyway, down the rabbit hole I went, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty neat." And the first saddle I bought was an original TX5 by Matthew Tompkins, and I loved that saddle. I mean, it was super comfortable. I tried several others, and I was like, "Man, this ain't comfortable at all." But I put his on, and I was like, "This is super nice." So I got a hold of Matthew and said, "Hey, I just bought this saddle." And he said, "Well, send it to me. I'll go through it, make sure everything's up to par." And I was like, "Wow, that's kind of cool." So I sent it to him, and he did. I think he put a new bridge on it, maybe, and just took make sure it was good to go and sent it back. So we got to talking, and he taught me a lot about saddle hunting. You know what I mean? Just over the phone and through text and stuff. He had learned tricks, you know, and so I just slowly got into it more and more, and then I started talking to people like Greg Staggs and just different people throughout the saddle community, and I just started getting further and further into it, and then I became a gear junkie because every time something came out new, I was like, I got to try it. Is this better than what I got? I don't know. I got a great wife because I got a garage just full of saddle gear. My buddies are like, "Good Lord, you got a whole saddle shop up in here."
Oh, wow.
So I just got further and further into it, and then I told you like, kind of was like, "Man, I'm buying all this stuff," and then there's got to be a way to try it, instead of just buying it and then trying to see if you like it or not. And so I decided, I said, I'm gonna start a Facebook group called KC Area Saddle Hunters. anybody in the area, if I can get them to join, we can do meetups, and I can try their gear, they can try my gear, and learn tips and tricks, what works, what don't. And I've done that for a few years now, and it really works out good. We get it. We never have a great big turnout, but there's 10, 20 people there sometimes,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of gear, and you get to try everybody's stuff out, and that's how, like I told you, that's how I met old Benny Gregory from Buzzard Roost. He actually come up to one of the events, and I'd never tried on it, but never even really heard of Buzzard Roost at that point. And I tried it on at the event, and I was like, yeah, this is all right. I tried a couple other 2 panel saddles that were on the market, and I wasn't a huge fan of 2 panels. And I think at that time I was doing the Cruiser XC. That's a comfortable saddle. There's a lot of comfortable saddles out there, and
Hmm.
so I ended up getting one of them Buzzard Roost saddles and putting some time in it. And man, I tell you what, after learning how to manipulate those bridge on the bridge loops and stuff, I was like, I got a bad back. I actually had back surgery this past February, and for me to be able to go out and sit dark to dark in a saddle, that's pretty good. That says something about that saddle, I believe. And
It speaks volumes.
yeah, so I'm pretty much I'm set on the Buzzaroo. I haven't bought another saddle since, and my wife's probably very happy about that part, I'd say. But yeah, so I rock the Buzzard Roost, love it. Um, I love Benny and Anthony, and I support them 100%. And great guys, great company.
Oh
I
yeah.
tell everybody, if you ain't tried a Buzzard Roost, you need to at least do yourself a favor and try one. It may not be for everybody, but it might be for you. So,
Hmm.
but I got that, and then man, I tried different sticks. I tried out on the limb sticks, the Shikars. I tried I went to one stick, and I one stick for a season. Last time I did it, one stick, and it's a lot of fun. I love rappelling. I like one sticking, but you gotta. It's one of those things. I think. You kind of gotta practice. You can't
Oh
just
yeah.
pick it up before season and go.
You got to put some
So
time into it.
I kind of had done that where I wasn't practicing, and I kept telling myself, "You better go out there." And I'd done it several times, but not enough. So the last time I went out and I used that one stick, I'm climbing this tree and I'm swinging, and I'm like, I look like if anybody was watching me, they'd be like, "What is this guy doing, man?" And I was like, "This ain't. I'm done." I followed all Greg Staggs. That he loves one sticking, and he's got it down, and everything he taught me, it works for sure, 100%. But like I said, it's just one of those things. I feel like you have to keep doing it,
Oh
steadily
yeah.
to be good at it. And so I decided, what, I'm going to go back to. I like four sticks and a platform, so I'm going to go back to that. That's when Jamie come out with the tree sticks, and I seen those, and I love. I don't like fiddle factor. I want it to be very simple, especially if we're in the dark or whatever. And the way he's got that design with the built-in aider, the way it stores, the way
Hmm.
your attachment rope store. I mean, I just love everything about it. Of course, I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's the lightest stick on the market at the moment.
I think it is.
Yeah, and it's strong. I mean, I'm not easy on my gear. I use it. I feel like it bites like a son of a gun, and I just love them. So I use
Awesome.
I do the Buzzard Roost saddle. I got the tree sticks that I love, and I just started using Razor 2.0. And actually, that's what I was on. The first hunt I had was Tuesday when I killed that buck, and I instantly loved that platform. I was like, this is a good platform. So,
Yeah.
but I got a bunch of them. So I got presets. I got some trophy line presets. I got some tethered presets. And I feel like there's a lot of different platforms, and some are great in certain areas. Some of my presets are just huge trees, and so that trophy line mission, I love to have that in that tree because it's a big platform.
Yeah.
You can really get around the side of that them bigger trees with something like that. So yeah, I like gear for sure, and I'm always checking something out. But Buzzard
Yeah.
Roots is definitely the saddle. I tell everybody, you can change a lot of stuff, but you need to get yourself a Buzzard Roots.
100% agree. And it's funny that you say that. Once you get into the saddle game, it's kind of hard not to become a gear junkie because, like you said, they're constantly putting out new stuff. You're like, oh, I really want to try that. Oh, I really want to try
Yeah,
that. But I'm so glad that you started that group. So again, anybody watching, uh, tell us the name of your saddle group in the Kansas City area, just in case they want to try to join and do some of these meetups with you.
KC area saddle hunters.
KC area saddle hunters. So anybody watching that's in the Kansas City area or can get close to there and want to try some stuff out, if you're brand new and don't really know much about it, I'm sure Troy and the other guys there would help talk you through
Yeah,
whatever you needed to learn and let you try their gears. So that's a great thing you're doing, Troy, to
yeah.
help people out to just try the gear and even open it up to people that want to get into the saddle game to begin with. I mean, that's a cool
Yeah,
thing.
we have a good time. Like I told you earlier, there's an archery where we do it at. There's an archery range. There's a walk through the woods archery range, and so people shoot bows. And like I said, we everybody tries each other's equipment. uh, Benny and Anthony, they come up for it, you know what I mean? And we have giveaways and whatnot. And it's a really good time. And
That sounds like a good time.
it's really a good time and a great way to just try different stuff. If you have any interest, just like if you had any interest in one stick, and there's always he's got a one stick and he'll show you how he does it. And it's really cool and it's really helpful. And I meet up with guys, they'll hit me up on that group and just be like, hey, is there any way I can meet up with you and try one of your saddles or this or that? And I'm like, oh yeah. So we'll meet up and they can try it out. And most of the time I think they end up buying one because they like it. And so yeah, it's really good. I kind of started it for a kind of a selfish reason because I wanted to try stuff, and it's just
Yeah.
grown into it's kind of a community, and it's really cool. I think we got 300 or 400 people in the group now, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah,
That's something I have noticed. Of course, here we are, the Saddle Cartel YouTube channel, but this community does kind of band together and help each other out. And when you got a bunch of people that have the same common interests and same intentions, it makes it easy to get good information. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And even if sometimes if it's just virtual, but for things like that, those meetups, I mean, that's a tremendous thing, and it's very helpful. And I love the fact that everybody I've encountered in the saddle hunting industry in the 4 or 5 years I've been into it is always so helpful. And that's huge. I mean, that says a lot about folks that they'll give up time and information and do it freely without any expectation. That's just a great
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Like I said, when I was starting, Matthew Tompkins and Spencer
Valeri,
Valeri, yeah. I've,
yep,
I've spent hours talking to him and Greg, and there's a lot of people that just they'll give you their time, and that's
yeah,
that says something, because their
it is
time's valuable, and if you can get that their time and their knowledge, I mean, you're doing good. So and I've
absolutely.
noticed that in the saddle community, it's a little different than some other hunting communities I'm in. It's like you said, it seems like everybody wants to help each other and help you learn. And that's the one group I can say I don't see a lot of bashing or nothing like that, like in some of these other groups. Some
Yeah,
of them, some of these guys are vicious.
they're
You get on
relentless.
there and say you shot this deer with a crossbow,
Oh,
you're gonna you're gonna catch some flack. And I'm like,
oh
I
yeah,
don't care what anybody uses. If it's feeding your family and it felt good to you, and that's your trophy, and use what, as long as it's legal, use what you got to use.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Troy, it's been a blast having you on, man. I've had you on here right at 40 minutes. Again, I want to thank you for carving out some time to jump on with me and walk us through your hunt. Thank you again for what you're doing for the Kansas City area folks. I'm trying to just spread the knowledge and the love of saddle hunting. I hope to celebrate with you again in the future on future kills. And just again, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for your service. I know you're a veteran, so thank you for that. And we really do appreciate you taking some time with us tonight.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate talking to you even earlier. It was good conversation. Always love to talk hunting and meet new people and stuff. And of course, everybody loves to tell their stories. So yeah,
Oh,
I
absolutely. That's
definitely
what it's all
appreciate
about.
you hitting me up. And thanks to old Lance for suggesting me. You know what I mean? I appreciate that for sure. So
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. All right, buddy. Well, anything you need from us here at the Cartel in future, you know how to get a hold of us. I wish you continued success and a safe season, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all. I
All
appreciate
right,
what
bud.
you guys are doing, man. This is really cool stuff. So yeah.
Oh, we enjoy it, man. We love helping each other out. Like I think I put it in the post the other day. It's just hunters helping hunters, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
we're
guys
doing.
are doing it right, man. I appreciate it for sure.
We appreciate that.
All right,
All
man.
right,
Thank
Troy.
you.
Good night, buddy.
Night. Have a good one.
You too, man.